Okay, attempt number 2. Just checking here. I'm looking at your faces, making sure everything's okay, but it looks good. And I would have had a chance to close my window, but I'm not going to do it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 4 of the All In Loyalty podcast. All things loyalty, all in one place. As always, the 3 loyalty chiefs, the aficionados, the sprezaturas, if you will, ready to educate you guys on all things loyalty. We are always here every 2 weeks with the goal of keeping you up to date with everything that is happening in the loyalty space, with the goal that you do not need to go anywhere else. You don't need to listen to any other loyalty podcasts. You don't need to read any other loyalty journals. Nothing like that. You just stick with us. You spend an hour and a half, 2 hours of your every 2 weeks, and you're up to speed. You know, you don't need anything else. So that is basically, as always, the goal. It has been a very, very interesting 2 weeks. It was hard just to pick some of the headlines that we were going to talk about today. But first, let us talk to the other 2 loyalty powerhouses in here. Kibi co-founders, my bosses, however you want to call them. Let's start with Gianluca today. How about it? Gianluca, how are you, sir? How's your Wednesday going?
I'm doing great. I'm doing amazing. I think I'll have to Google that word that you said before because I do not know.
Presatura. Yeah.
I'm not sure what that is. But yeah, no, I'm doing great. Super excited to go into the topics that we have today. There's some cool stuff, and yeah, I'm hyped.
Very,
Ready
very
for it.
nice. I was just Googling it myself because I remember the word and I wasn't 100% sure of the thing, but it turns out sprezzatura, I remembered correctly. It means being so skilled at something and being so good at something that you make it look easy. That's kind of
Nice.
like the main thing behind it. A
What
little bit of
language?
education to get you guys started. There you go. Gabriele, on your side, how is everything? How's life? How's business? How's, I don't know,
Everything,
whatever.
everything amazing. A lot going on. I was just thinking about another thing that I'm a espresso tour, but we don't discuss this here right now. No, I'm doing very good. Again, huge amount of stuff going on, so very, very, very busy. But yeah, very amazing things in the pipeline. So super happy to be able to work on these with the team, and yeah, otherwise all good. Life is good.
Yeah.
Business is
I
good.
mean, some of these things we're even going to be talking about today, so that's also super exciting. And when we were, I mean, just to fully confirm, like we had a nice meeting on Monday morning with the whole team, and like the energy is so cool right now. Everybody's like very positive, very motivated. Everyone's ready to put in that like sort of, what was it? 9-6
996. 9 a.m.
996
Yeah.
mentality. Yeah, and it's just really, really cool to see. So I can only go, oh my God. I was going to use a German expression. Ich kann mich nur anschließen. I can only agree with what you just said. It's been a really, really cool time. I'm approaching this all with full-on energy, also learning a couple new things in the process, so that's also very, very nice. We are diving straight in because we've got a couple of very interesting articles that we want to start talking about today, beginning with this. Participation grows as loyalty and engagement ebb. This is a very interesting article that came up from the Boston Consulting Group, BCG, creators of, I'm sure if you've been to business school, you've heard of the BCG matrix.
I think that's the wrong slide, right?
Oh, I got the wrong thing.
On the second top. A little teaser of the second top.
There we go. I can edit that out, though, since it's static. Anyway, yes, participation grows as loyalty and engagement ebb. So this is a really, really interesting one that's been going on. It's actually a slightly older article, but it's been making rounds again because of the relevance of the data. So I'm sure you guys are, everybody's going to be able to see exactly what we mean by that in just a second. But a lot of the key takeaways have been, there was this survey that was done with about 10,000 people in 9 different countries representing 3 regions. And it was all about, you know, what the different trends were, what some of their preferences were, etc. And we've done deep dives on some of these loyalty-driven surveys before. However, what's a little bit interesting and different this time is sort of the, I guess, the weighting and the distribution. So, of course, no survey is ever perfect. We can, call out some of the different pieces that we find maybe not as good or super good or whatever. But some of the interesting parts from this one we are going to share with you now. Interestingly, here we talk about they break down the survey, essentially going over what it was that happened, and then in the text, I love this line: "Our findings confirm that loyalty programs are evolving." No kidding, that is incredible. I'm. s- They've been evolving the entire time. It's going to be really interesting to hear how they have though.
Or
And
have they?
or have they? There is the famous PewDiePie meme, where he has his hand here and it says it's evolving just backwards. uh,
And
but
another
basically,
thing,
it goes into a lot of very interesting. Sorry?
another thing to cut. You were away again. 3 seconds.
Oh, man. Okay. I just can't catch a break, it seems. But I think we're back to normal now.
Yes.
And we can already start with some of their, because they have some initial exhibits that aren't necessarily worth talking about. Is just talking about how exhibit number 1, for example, is the more programs people belong to, the less engaged and loyal they become. So that's kind of a classic distribution thing. It makes a lot of sense. It's not news to anybody. If you're part of 10 different loyalty programs versus 30, of course you're going to be less engaged to the 30. And then it's a lot of things that are sort of givens, I suppose, and also topics that we've talked about in previous episodes. So an interesting part to go over here is the different types of benefits that consumers value by region. This one's super interesting because we've got a couple of basic important points here. You can see at the bottom of the chart, you can see loyalty currencies, you can see discounts, other things that people care about a whole lot, like the member experience, like the access to experiences and stuff like that, and how different that is per group. So we've got some very interesting key takeaways here, like the loyalty currency being highly valued in the US, discounts being highly valued in the US as opposed to anywhere else. With Europe, it seems a little bit more averaged out, as you can see. Like Europe is never clearly ahead anywhere, but tends to be in the center with a lot of them. And then when it comes to the Asia Pacific sector, you see member experience with a huge, huge advantage, as well as access to experiences. So it's a lot of it has to do with the experience, something we've talked about in the past, feeling special, feeling valued. If you're loyal to someone, we need to acknowledge that you are loyal and say, oh my God, you're awesome. You've been loyal to us for all this time. Here's what we want to do for you. So maybe we could start with some basic takeaways. I mean, it's really, really interesting when it comes to all of these various points, and a conversation that we actually had yesterday, the three of us, about, the different boosts, the different benefits that people like. And yeah, let's start with a basic sort of breakdown. Are there any sort of metrics here that are surprising to you, or if everything is sort of exactly the way you think it is or should be? Gabriela, maybe we could start with you on this one. How does the data look, do you think?
I think it looks pretty straightforward in the sense that, I mean, loyalty currency and discounts, I think that goes hand in hand. Like I get points, I can redeem them for something. Basically, it's a discount, right? It's a deferred discount if you want. So that looks, I think it's pretty normal. People like to save money. So as soon as they get the chance to do that, they take advantage of it. And it's honestly kind of a no-brainer. Like if you go to a brand, you have a possibility to earn some points, or the classic stamp cards, buy 10, get 11 one for free. I think you kind of feel a bit dumb if you don't start using it at a certain point, because you literally leave money on the table. So that one is pretty straightforward. Experiences, perks, benefits, etc., those are mostly connected to higher status. So that is a bit more difficult to achieve. So I think that people just, let's say, less people get to enjoy them, and that's also why you see basically participation a bit lower and interest a bit lower. But I think that's pretty straightforward. And again, I think it's, in myself, I love both of it. I love to book flights with miles and feel a huge satisfaction when I get a free flight. but also a huge frustration when I don't fly in the flight that I actually want, and I can't use my miles. So that's all. It's actually then a pain. I say, shit, I have to pay for this flight. Why? So it's kind of, it's cool on one side, and actually, I mean, at the end of the day, it drives also that willingness to earn more miles, and to then also at the end of the day book also a bit different dates where you can actually get that free flight. On the perk side, it really depends. I think there are very cool perks that really give you a lot of benefit. I love there where everything that you can save time basically. So from priority check-in to you can get earlier into the room, or you have late checkout, or you don't have to wait for a certain queue. I have a few stories about nice perks and how they save
That was
time.
going to be the next topic. Yeah. I mean, you can dive right into it if you want. Like, you mentioned yesterday that you had some good anecdotes. It would be really interesting to hear.
I mean, I think again, like, I mean, I don't know. I think we talk every episode about American Express Platinum, but it's literally, it is one of the best cards ever, and enables you like status matches to various other programs. So, for example, with the American Express Platinum, you get sixth the rental car service Platinum status. You get Marriott Gold Elite Platinum, meaning that, for example, with Marriott Gold Elite, you get special packages where you save more money on a certain room. There was like when I was in May in Dubai for Token 2049, was in a Marriott, and then basically at the reception they were like, let's play a game. You can either get what was it? You can go the risk-free route and just get directly 1,000 points, or you can go take some risk and then you can win. I think it was more points, 0 points, a massage, breakfast for free, stuff like that. So it kind of makes. I mean, I was a bit tired, to be fully honest, when I arrived, so it was maybe the wrong moment because it was like 11 p.m. or 11:30 p.m. in the evening. So I was like, let me just go to my room, please. I want to sleep. But it's fun. It makes the experience a bit more fun and gamifies a bit that let's say that experience. Sixth, I mean, I love it when I can just pass the whole queue because they have a specific platinum counter. Also, if they don't have it, you can literally just walk in front of everyone and then say, hey, I'm 6 platinum, and then they, what we do in a moment, maybe pisses off some people, but that's why those status are here. And actually, people understand it. Like, it was fun because a guy was like, "Hey, didn't you see the queue?" I was like, "Yeah, but I'm 6 platinum." I was like, "Aha, I'm 6 gold. Can I do that too?" I was like, ask. So it's like it's fun. Like those are those small things that actually are really cool. Today, I actually found out that. With IHG, the hotel group, Intercontinental Hotel Group, that you can buy their diamond status. So I did it directly. It was like $200, and it's super cool because you get every day for a stay, like every day that you stay with one of their hotels, you get $20 of food credits, food and drinks credits, right?
Oh wow!
After 10 nights, you actually got those $200 out of. You basically save them again. So those are cool things. Again, you also have late checkout there. You have priority check-in, all of these things. And I think everybody likes it to feel a bit special, to have that VIP feeling, etc. So I think those perks make the experience, they bring them on another level, because obviously saving money is really cool, but it's very transactional, right? And the perks make the whole thing much more emotional. They really, let's say, connect to a few other neurons in your brain and make a bit of a different experience happen.
Right. Clearly, 10,000 people across the globe do not agree with you. with that being literally the last.
Yeah, but the thing
so
is,
interesting. Yeah,
they don't track, because, like, for example, also with IAG, I was checking out the rates. Then I saw, okay, if you're a member, then you get a special rate. So I directly registered to the loyalty program, right? So then I already saved money just by registering to the loyalty program. So already there, a lot of people don't do that. And then I checked out, hey, is there a status match with American Express Platinum? That was the first thing I did. So I checked on Google. I saw, no, there is not. But then Gemini actually reminded me, hey, you can buy the diamond status. I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Checked it out. Then I quickly saw the perks. I'm like, yeah, perfect. I mean, I'm anyways now staying in Dubai next week for business, like 7 nights. It's like, okay, perfect. If I have every day $20, we have
Empty the mini bar every night.
that's not the goal, but like that could be one of the things. No, but it's like I think that a lot of people just don't make that effort to understand a bit what you can do. Like I again mentioned a few times, I have so many friends that have the Amex Platinum. They don't know they have a concierge. They don't know that they have a status match. They just don't check even the little booklet that you get at the beginning when they send you the card. So obviously, like that's something that less people check out. But I think it's
like the guy you said in the queue for 6 that
yeah,
stopped you
same thing. Yeah,
for
same
passing and says, "Oh, can I also do this with
Yeah,
gold
same
status?"
same
If
thing.
people
So
knew, then they
I always read what are my benefits, and then I fully use them in every possible way. So of course, if
And
you
it's
don't put that
strange that it kind of comes off then that you're in the minority in that respect. Isn't that interesting that like most people, I guess, when they're in loyalty programs, they'll read the top lines or they'll just look at one benefit that's like really interesting to them and then just ignore everything else.
probably
sounds
that's why also the highest benefit that was selected or that was voted upon by everyone was the loyalty currency,
yeah,
which is the most obvious one. Is
Right.
you spend money here and you get points, and
correct.
it's like, oh, okay, that's what I'm doing. And then the waterfall of other things that they get is washed away, pun intended.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like sometimes I even remember that but it was like literally years and years ago, the platinum card from Miles and More that gives you access. Doesn't matter if you fly economy, but you can do, for example, bag drop off, check in, and get your boarding pass at the first or business counter, right? So, and obviously there are much less people there waiting than at the economy counter. And not even the people at the counter from first and business knew about it. So I literally had to go on the website, like, look, here it's written that I can do the check-in here. I can get like, okay, if it's written there, that it's fine. So it's like, it's interesting that you see education is not even only a members issue, but it's even a staff issue where they're not all completely informed. And I mean, honestly, there are so many products. So as a staff member of an airline and so on, it is difficult to have the overview of all kinds of different basically perks and benefits that let's say the loyalty program gives out. So that's completely fine. But I mean, let's be full like maybe sounds harsh, but I think that most of the people sadly don't put a lot of effort in certain things, and so automatically they leave out 80% of the benefits and just take the, let's say, the superficial, the peak of the iceberg. They enjoy that, but then you have so much more stuff that you can get out of these programs, and that takes just a little bit more effort to get there.
100%. 100%. And yeah, I mean it's just what I find the most interesting about it, I think, is how when I had some friends that were part of these things, you mentioned sort of the innate laziness in people to find something out. And it kind of goes to show in basically any business at the end of the day is like the more effort you put in, the more you get out of it. You get what you give all the time. The same thing with trading. You know, people talk about trading and how you have to be like a genius to be able to do it. A lot of the people that fail as traders just don't do it that much. You know, like that's been always some of the things is like you always have to keep your eyes on the thing constantly. You have to just gather that experience, put all of it together and actually make an effort. So it goes to show that the people that put the most time in are generally speaking the ones that are going to get the most out of it. Like it makes sense at the end of the day.
I mean, to be fair, honestly, I think it's also a matter of what you're actually interested in. Obviously, we are interested in loyalty programs since this is like our bread and butter every day. So we put the effort in there. Like if I make an example, like with my iPhone, I would assume that 80-90% of the functions that and like the tips and tricks that I could actually use, I don't know them because I just don't put the effort in. I take it out of the box. I don't care about all the explanations what you can do with it, and I just start using it like I always use it. So I think it's also a matter of where is actually your focus, what are you interested in, and then automatically you go deeper than in other topics. So I think that's also part of the equation.
It hits onto and is probably a nice segue to another part of this article, which is very interesting. And maybe Gianluca, I'll be picking your brain about this one. But it's really curious because it has to do with, we slightly go into the kind of, I guess, almost gatekeeping topic, but also into an age group topic. So like with one of the other charts, they were talking about how, of course, everybody, regardless of age, wants rewards or benefits. Duh, that's why they joined the program in the first place. But consumers ages 18 to 34 are more drawn to free content and media and personalized benefits and digital engagement. Those who are 35 and older are more interested in benefits that offer monetary benefits. People with high incomes, defined as households with an income of more than $150,000, care more about programs that offer tangible value than people in lower income brackets. Depending on the industry, high earners can be 5 to 10% more engaged with their loyalty programs than people at lower income levels. People with lower incomes may be less engaged, but they are on average 5% more loyal to the programs they belong to. So there's a lot of really interesting numbers here. I think one of the most curious ones, and one of the ones that I've kind of found the most interesting when I read the article and pondered on it a little bit, was the sort of, yeah, I guess gatekeeping feels unfair, but like, you have some of these cards. We're also going to probably delve into another topic later about, debit versus credit cards and how some of those are a bit more unattainable. But where, it's very clear that the highest amount of rewards and the most rewarding programs tend to be also for the people that actually put the most into it. So you get all of these awesome benefits from, the American Express Platinum, but it also costs a certain amount of money, et cetera, et cetera. So as you see, you are going to get very different groups engaging in very different loyalty programs. If you're a higher earner or you're a businessman who travels a lot, you're going to be interested in a lot of these miles programs and those sorts of things. If you're lower income, maybe you go for some of the free ones that are a bit more interesting. That's more, maybe more on a retail level or something. So maybe first and foremost, a little breakdown, Gianluca. I mean, I'm guessing these numbers don't come as a surprise to you, but like when it comes to first impressions, what are some initial thoughts that you have?
So the first thing that I see is, to me, when I read that high earners are 5 to 10% more engaged with the loyalty program than people with lower income, to me that makes sense in general. Even though when looking at the second sentence or the last sentence, when they say that people with lower incomes may be less engaged, but they are on average 5% more loyal to programs they belong to, in a way that to me translates to they're 5% more likely not to switch to another loyalty program, which to me also kind of translates to they are engaged with the loyalty program. But again, that's then a question. I think that's partly semantics and what the study actually looked for when they talk about engagement and loyalty, like loyalty in the actual term of not switching. So I think that we would only know if we knew how they we go in depth and how they collected the data. But to me, that makes sense that you're more engaged in, on all levels of income, but with higher earners, if you push more volume, in the end, it's all business. I mean, the world is businesses. If you go
Yeah.
shop somewhere, it's a business. It's not like it's not a charity. It's not donations, right? People or businesses don't give you free stuff. You have to pay for it. And they give you, on top of that, benefits, perks, currencies, loyalty currencies, etc. So it makes sense that when you also push more volume through these systems as a high earner, you're more likely to look into how you can benefit or get the maximum benefit out of that loyalty program, so that your money is worth it, or let's say the loyalty program is worth your money pushing through it. I don't know if the last sentence implies that high earners are less likely to be loyal to the program. So I don't know if it implies that, which again to me would be a bit strange, because if you're trying to maximize the benefits out of a loyalty program, you're not fast on switching. especially when there's tiers involved. You're trying to get the highest tier. You're not spreading your, let's say, your, how do you want to call that, your loyalty capacity or your capacity for loyalty programs across many programs. Yeah, and get into like the lowest tiers everywhere, but you try and focus on one and get the highest tier there, and if anything, then move on once you have the highest tiers. Or if you're high earner enough, you just have the highest tier everywhere, just by default, because you do so much with the loyalty program. Again, to me, not a surprise. One thing that I found interesting, though, I wanted to just briefly touch on the topics that you guys were talking before, is that it's interesting because also in this article, in this study, they show that, I have to just so I say the right words, people are more loyal to memberships they pay for or use a lot. And that makes so much sense also to the topic of there's so many more loyalty programs out there, and you're likely to switch from one to the other if it's for free, if you just sign up and you're just testing it out and you're not using it a lot. Honestly, the example Gabriele made for himself couldn't be more perfect to literally show that point. You spend for a membership tier a certain amount of money, but let's just say that's irrelevant for now. You spend money for a tier. That means you are going to use that because you actually put in money for the tier. Not, you didn't earn the tier by being loyal or being part of the loyalty program for a certain amount of time, but you bought into it directly. So of course you're going to use that. They also make the comparison with streaming services. Of course, if you pay for Netflix, you're going to watch Netflix. And if you pay for Amazon Prime, you're going to watch Amazon Prime and not other stuff because you pay for it, so you're going to use it, right? So that to me makes complete sense. Gabriele, why are you smirking? Yes, I imagine that if you pay for that, you're going to be using that as well. No, but jokes aside, yeah, to me that makes sense. I mean, honestly, in the end, it's like all things. The moment there's a level of it's given, it's taken for granted. Everyone has loyalty programs. You're going to default to the ones that, of course, you use the most. If I use a grocery chain more than another one, may it be for convenience, for product selection, or just simply because I prefer it, of course, I'm going to be using that loyalty program more because I'm going to be shopping there more. And that makes absolute sense. And I think there it makes then even more sense that, but to come back to the high earners versus low earners, it makes sense that then you are also going to maximize that loyalty program's capacity by being more engaged because you're spending more money there.
100%.
It feels like I said something extremely trivial and very circular, you know.
Enough so that it sounds super.
We half an hour to explain something very trivial, but maybe it's not trivial. Who knows? Could also.
I mean, it's not for a lot of people. You talk about using the service that you pay for, but how many friends do you know that have a gym subscription and never go, or have like Netflix and have never watched anything on there? You know, there's people can still do with that kind of information.
Don't even remember what subscriptions they have. There are so many people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. And this is perfect because this is an interesting segue because we're talking about how much time different like levels of people, different demographics, different age groups actually tend to spend on their loyalty programs. And that sort of opens up a really interesting conversation, which was something that I had sort of also noticed on the timeline lately, which is the amount of time with which people dedicate, you know, towards loyalty programs in general. So we've seen it fluctuate a little bit. We've seen like a huge surge of loyalty attention, I feel like a few years ago, that is now kind of, I feel like, plateauing, but is like kind of on the move up again. But really interestingly is like the level with which the space is evolving and the amount of focus being brought on by companies towards their loyalty programs. And we had been talking about the vision, always talking about this sort of interconnected loyalty ecosystem that there can be, that there's the potential to be between companies, between their points and their programs. And the question is, and this one, I mean, I can place this one with either of you guys, but as loyalty becomes more and more of a staple and priority for companies, how much attention should people be putting into these loyalty programs versus like any other way that they could have to make money? Like if a guy has a set amount of time per day, leisure time, that he wants to make money with, and he could either get into like stocks or trading, or start participating heavily in a loyalty program XYZ, like what level of priority should it have in that person's life, or should it be more of a convenience based thing? I hope you understand like sort of what the, like how I'm sort of asking this question. But like, even if someone, to make an even more extreme example, if someone's going through economic difficulty, how much time or money should they then use on a loyalty program? Would love to pick your guys' brains on that one.
I mean, honestly, I think there is one major issue with your question. The sense, and it's like trading, you do because you want to make money. Loyalty programs you use because you want to save money or you want to have a better experience. There's a huge difference between both. So, and also just from an economical perspective, like if you buy a product for a brand, right, they just give you a small amount back. So there is no way that you can actually make money on it. It's also like the example that I said with IHG, with the membership that, like with the tier that I bought, right? I still had to spend $200. Yeah, now, of course, every time I go there, I get my $20 credits per day and I can save money, but it's not I'm making money. That's like a bit of a, I think, it's when people buy something with a discount, they have the feeling they made money. Yeah, no, you just still spent money. You just spent less money than you were planning to spend. So I don't think that it's about making money. And that's also why if you count, let's say, your salary or what you earned per hour will be pretty low, in the sense that it's nowhere near if you actually have a job and you work on it, or you have maybe a side job, etc. So I think that's the big difference. And at the end of the day, it's really about not leaving any money on the table. I would call it like that, because again, sometimes it's so easy to just get advantage of these programs where you can save money on your trips, or on whatever you're doing. And on the other side, again, having a better experience, which then makes you feel better, makes you save some time, it gives you, again, a more engaged experience, etc. But it's I wouldn't go at all in the direction of you're making money. And I also honestly think that there is a lot of, I mean, it's always also a bit about marginal costs, in the sense that how much can you actually be loyal? Because at the end of the day, you can be loyal if the marginal costs are not crazy higher than another option, another opportunity. But as soon as they're so much higher, loyalty fades away. Because, and I mean, I booked today a flight. I checked out Zurich, Dubai, with Swiss. I actually always use Swiss. I'm very loyal to Lufthansa Group and Swiss and Miles and more. But it was double the price, more than double the price for the flight than flying from Munich to Dubai with Emirates. So they're as loyal as I want to be to Swiss. If I don't want to afford that price, then just my loyalty is doesn't come into play, but then my economic rationale comes into play, and then it's a completely different story. So I think it's always about first, and the foundation of every, let's say, transaction, or why I choose a brand, why I choose a product, is how good is this product, how good is the service, and what is the price that I pay? Because that's the first part that I'm doing, right? The loyalty side is the cherry on top. It can be a bit bigger, a bit smaller, but if the foundation doesn't make sense, every human is very economical, rational, and in that moment they just go for something else. So I think that's something that is super important. I think also it's reflected actually in those studies before, because obviously you have younger people that don't earn that much money. They go more for free content, digital engagement, and all of that stuff. And people that actually make more money, they go more for the higher rewards in a loyalty program because they literally can use more of them. Maybe one note on the other stats that we saw. What I think it's super weird is the topic of high spenders are that they're more engaged. That makes sense because they have more options to actually use the loyalty program. But on the other side, like from my perspective, somebody that earns less money is much more price sensitive, meaning that they actually look at more options how to save money instead of being loyal to one specific airline, hotel, grocery store, etc. Because they actually need to save more money than somebody that makes a lot of money. Because again, a flight that costs $1,000 for somebody that makes less money has a much higher impact on their, let's say, P&L than somebody that makes much more money. So I think it's easier for somebody that has a higher salary and more money to be loyal to a certain loyalty program because, again, their price sensitivity is lower in that moment than somebody that has less money because they automatically go and, for example, go through booking first and see all the flights that are there or all the hotels that are there, check by price, and then actually choose by that, right? Rather than someone that is used to, I don't know, always fly Swiss, always fly Emirates, etc. They just go directly on their page and they look what flights are there because they want to earn more miles, they want to upgrade their tier, and again, like I had exactly the same. Like today, I booked the flight and the hotel. With the hotel, the same story. I'm married. I'm gold elite. I was checking the price. I was like, holy f. Price is super high. Then I quickly checked IHG. I saw half of the price. I was like, okay, it's a no-brainer. Of course, I'm going to book that hotel because I pay half of the price. The product and the service is at the same level. So why, like, in that moment, my loyalty fades away because I'm just saying I save half of the amount that I wanted to spend. And that actually makes a huge difference. Because if you talk about 10% difference, I think most people don't really care. But if you go towards 30, 40, 50, 60% difference for almost the same product and service, then your loyalty points and your status gets less and less important.
I wonder where the tipping line is there. Like, as soon as it starts to look like almost double or something, is that when you start to be like, okay, I can ignore the loyalty program and go for this one?
The pain point, yeah.
I think it depends also how much you earn. Like if you're used to, let's say, fly business, for example, and you make 100K a year or 150K a year, and your company always pays for your flights. Right now, you have to book your private holidays. And you also want to fly business. Now you see somewhere the business flight is 5K and on the other side it's 2.5K. Those 2.5K actually have quite a bit of an impact. Like we're talking about a few percentages of your salary. If you make $1 million a year and you're let's say you always fly business because your company pays, and now you have to, again, the same topic. I go for holiday privately and I need to book business or I want to book business flight, 5K or 2.5K. Those 2.5K maybe don't really, and literally in percentage, don't really hurt me because we're talking about 0 point something percent, right? So there, maybe I say, you know what, I'll just pay those 2.5K because I want to keep my status or I want to maybe increase it, etc. So the marginal costs are much lower, and then you actually go for that. So I think it's really that. Like, if you're a young analyst that gets paid business from a company but makes 50K a year, then 2.5K, it's already 5% of your salary. So in that moment, you think twice about it. Should I go for the 2.5K? Maybe actually just fly economy. But if you want to afford the business flight, those 2.5K make a huge difference.
100%. Yeah, that's definitely interesting. I mean, it was really interesting because the whole reason that the topic was brought up originally was, I think it was a comment I saw in LinkedIn from an older post, I think from Points Guy or something like that. It was like a tutorial on how to maximize your points from like XYZ programs. And one of the comments said, dude, the amount of effort you're putting into this, though, takes like hours. You're talking like hours of your day that goes into it. So, like, at what point is it too much? And that's when it starts to get a little bit interesting. But Gianluca, we've just heard a lot. Do you concur with everything Gabriella said up till this point, or
No.
what do you think? No.
No,
Okay, nice.
and I'll leave it at that. I won't elaborate. No.
I hate
Everything. No. I would say the first thing Abela said about the examples you gave of trading, or I don't know what the second thing was, but let's say trading and going after loyalty programs and maximizing that stuff and spending time there. That was the first thought I also had, is with trading, let's say you can potentially make money, whereas with loyalty points, you're not trying to make money, you're trying to save money or get a cherry on top of everything you already do. One thing though that I wanted to add to that is, and that's similar to the last thing that Gabriela was speaking about, that the young analyst who wants to go business. One thing that is also very common, I think it ties in with what you were saying about the Points Guy art post, is that there are ways of going into loyalty programs, creating accounts, whether it's through credit cards, whether it's through first-time signups, where you get a ton of points or a ton of miles up front because you signed up, because you joined through a promotion. And if you do that in a smart way, you can also buy yourself that business flight as a young analyst and get that business flight for free. And then you could argue that spending that extra little effort and time into finding these promotions and into pooling, let's say, all these promotions together into one big pot of miles that then gives you the flight could be worth it. But to that comment, I would agree as well. It's a question of how much time do you spend, if without going too high level and philosophical, is if you spend really that much time on going after loyalty programs just to get a flight, or you spend I don't know how many hours on loyalty programs just to get that extra little thing you wanted, you could argue maybe that time spent educating yourself in whatever you do to a higher level is probably going to net you more income and more money than that time spent trying to save money with a loyalty program.
I guess
and
it's
that's
a
just
bit
like a life thing in general.
It's a bit, I'm guessing, like Gabriela said earlier as well, like it's passion driven probably. Like if you're just really into getting like maximum points and into using these programs and everything, then of course you're going to set a bunch of time to it, right? It's like going after a hobby essentially.
Yeah, of course. If it's recreational,
then of course, yeah.
Go for it.
100%. Interesting. It's always really interesting, especially because, like we said, it's they're evolving, they're growing. Companies keep putting a lot more attention into it, so maybe the meta will even shift as time goes by, maybe even faster than we expect.
In the end, maybe one super simple rule to answer that question in a very rational and objective way is to calculate how much you earn per hour or per minute, and then think about how much time you're spending to save with that loyalty program, and then you do a quick calculation if it matches what you're earning, if you're above it or below it, and if you could get a higher tier salary if you spend that time not recreationally going into loyalty programs, but maybe advancing your career.
100%.
I don't know. Could be a template.
Advice for the future. Sounds good. Good. And now, ladies and gentlemen, in tooting our own horn news, because this is very, very exciting and very, very cool, we have one of the latest updates that actually would have made the podcast irrespective, but there is a little bit of involvement here on our side. So this one is very, very exciting. And that is the news that, I don't know if you guys have heard, maybe we'll be able to explain it to the audience a little bit later. Rove Miles, the new credit card-free rewards program that lets you earn points on hotels, flights, and shopping has added Lufthansa's Miles and More loyalty program as its newest transfer partner. Now, of course, we had a little hand in this, but I think I am going to. The best thing that I can possibly do is probably hand it over to Gabriele to maybe introduce people to what Rove actually is, because I'm guessing it's news to quite a few people, considering, in the beginning at least, they're mostly present in the US. And then maybe we can go over the partnership as well. But for now, Rove Miles, who are they, et cetera, et cetera? How about you can break it down for us?
Yes. So we're excited actually about having Rove Miles on board. Max, the CEO and co-founder, and his amazing team, they've built, I would say, one of the most valuable and best loyalty programs in the US right now. I hope they expand fast globally, because I can't use this from Switzerland right now. So
Same.
I would love to do that. But basically, they build a loyalty program that they so-called the first universal airline miles. So you can basically shop, book flights, book hotels, and earn a huge amount of their own miles, Rove Miles. And then they have all kinds of different conversion partners with airlines. And one of them is Miles More, their newest edition, where we had let's say the honor to support them. I'm very proud that actually really went super fast. Everything went very smooth, and they had a great launch. It's also every important let's say points influencer is talking about it. So I think that's really cool that we're able to power that partnership for them. Again, it's a huge advantages that you can get through them. Like, they really give you a huge amount of miles. Like, with certain hotel bookings or also flights and shopping, you can earn like 20-30x miles, where literally with one hotel stay you can get, I don't know, 150 200,000 miles and more miles when you convert them, meaning you get directly your business flight or also even a first class flight, depending on the route, for free. So it's super cool loyalty program, very innovative. They show clearly what you can do as a tech company, let's say as a tech first company with understanding of loyalty. I would say miles ahead, no pun intended, compared to a lot of other loyalty programs. So yeah, very proud to have them on board. And again, only waiting until they expand to Switzerland, so that I was actually checking just before, I was checking the hotels in Dubai and the flights and so on. And it's really crazy the amount of miles that you can earn with certain spend. So yeah, very cool to have them on board.
Also, just before this, I also tried to create an account, and then it asks for your phone number, and I put in the German extension, and it then says, "Oh, sorry, your country's not."
We're not there yet. Yeah, I know.
Damn. But you mentioned that a lot of like points people are talking about it. You mentioned that like it's a very talked about piece of news, especially in like the loyalty sector.
Mm-hmm.
Can you expand on why that is? Is it like about the America side of things, or what is the big deal with this one in particular?
Basically, they're the first one in the US to actually be able to have the conversion in miles and more miles, besides Barclays Bank. So Barclays Bank right now is the only, say, player that enables that conversion from points into miles, and actually is a partnership directly, co-branded partnership with Miles and More. The value is not crazy, and that's not like I'm just comparing it now to Rove Miles, so everybody can get the public information on how much you can actually earn there, and also with Rove. And right now you really get amazing deals. I think a few of the points influencers were talking about the 88 miles deal that you get, where you can actually fly from the US to Europe for 88 miles. So I mean, that is amazing. Like, we're literally talking about a few cents that you have to spend in miles. Of course, there are like the taxes and all of that stuff that you have to pay on top, but at the end of the day, super cheap to basically get from the US to Europe. And again, they're basically right now the only other player besides Barclays Bank to enable that conversion. So that's really, really cool. And I was checking last time, from first time that Max and I basically got in touch to launching of the partnership, it took us around 6 weeks, from everything, like first scheduling the first meeting to launching the partnership. which is really, really cool because again, it shows again the power of our solution, and then how fast we can make those connections. And also amazing for Miles and More because they have another partner in the US that actually drives a lot of volume, drives a lot of let's say users into their loyalty program. And super excited to see now how it evolves. And yeah, wishing them all the best and a lot of conversions into Miles and More Miles.
It is pretty insane when you talk about the 6-week period. I mean, normally when you would think about partnerships like this, you would think multiple months at least or something just to get everything technically set up, right? I'm guessing. Yeah.
It takes 12 months. So the 6 weeks are pretty. And I also have to say it's maybe the issue was also because Max was talking directly to me, so sometimes it took a bit longer to find a slot in my calendar. If I would have talked directly with, let's say, with our head of partnerships or with our head of product, that would have gone maybe even faster. But it was super fast, and I mean, their team is also honestly top notch from a tech perspective. So the integration went super fast on their side. Yeah, everything honestly worked really nice. Miles and More, of course, it's a corporate, so they took sometimes a bit longer to check out a few things, which again, we're used to it, where it's normal. They are much larger corporations, so they're less nimble as, let's say, Rove Miles or us as startups, where hierarchies are much more flat. And let's say as co-founders, CEOs, we can take decisions super fast and communicate with our teams very fast. So execution is, of course, a bit different than in a corporate.
I mean, there's a term for it, right? Corporate red tape. That always is what takes a little bit longer than everything else, right?
I mean, we can't even blame a corporate. It's just like it just got to a point. And I think honestly, every startup, like the bigger they get, the more they face also certain kind of issues, because you automatically have more layers in a hierarchy. You have more things that you have to check, more compliance, more processes that you have to keep attention on. So it makes sense. That's why there's nobody to blame. But it's, of course, like if you're a tank, moves slower than a motorcycle, and it's just, I think that's just the fact. And right now, our motorcycles most probably will also become some Rove Miles and Kiwi will also become some big tanks in future. We'll try to be the same, keep the same nimbleness that we actually have, and move fast as we're doing right now.
Fantastic. Yeah. And I mean, it was a really cool piece of news. And that 88 miles thing that you mentioned, like the CEO made a LinkedIn post about the partnership announcing it. And that was like the #1 comment that was there. I think also by Rove's like COO or their CMO or something like that. He was talking about I won't say anything but 88 miles, hush, hush, or something. And yeah, it seems like it's some alpha that people are aware of.
Yeah, and a lot of points influencers are actually talking about that. It is really cool. I mean, it's fun because I was talking with another company from Singapore doing something similar as Rove Miles, and we're talking about flights. And then I literally went quickly while we were on the call. I was like, let me quickly check what is Singapore, Zurich, or Singapore, London, how many miles you need. And then I also suddenly 100 miles, 200 miles, 300 miles. I was like, man, look here, it's super cheap. And I was like, are you sure that's correct? I'm like, yeah, I mean, I can ask again Miles and More, but it seems pretty like it seems right. And that is really unusual, because otherwise, say an economy flight from Zurich to New York, at least when I look from Zurich to somewhere, if it's a flight that goes more than 6-7 hours, economy is around 20,000 miles per flight, premium economy around 40, and then business is around 60-70. So obviously there are differences depending also on the dates and so on, but you can find really, really amazing deals. So if you have a bit more flexibility in your let's say time schedule, and you're a bit flexible on that side, you can find amazing deals.
Not to mention, when it comes to the Miles and More side, there's all these advantages. But I think for Americans, also what makes it pretty interesting is I think there's also, like 2 or 3 American airlines that are in Star Alliance, something like that. So that probably adds to it a bit too, I'm assuming.
I know United is in Star Alliance.
Right. There's United. Yeah.
So, but that's also why it's really cool. You have Star Alliance, you get access to 26 different airlines. So you have a lot of cool stuff. And then that's the thing. If you basically start optimizing a bit and you start seeing how can you actually, maybe with a stop where you fly through LOT or Croatian Airlines or Brussels Airlines, etc., you find actually really cool deals. Or Austrian also, they're all part of the Miles and More and Lufthansa group. So as we said before, like as soon as you put a bit more effort in there, you actually find really, really cool deals, and you can fly really cheap. And I saw a lot of different posts also, since we're connected on LinkedIn, where some people really spent maybe $3,000-4,000 on a hotel, but got like 120,000 miles out of it. And they were able to get a business class flight basically, and they were saying, "Hey, I just saved 80. I just basically got 80% cash back," right? So they're doing an amazing job in offering really, really cool deals. And again, I think super privileged in the US that they have Rove Miles there and that they can use it. I hope they expand as fast as possible because yeah, I also want to profit from these kind of deals.
100%. That was the first thing that I looked up as soon as we like talked about the initial talks, was like looking up who they are and everything, and yeah, trying to create an account and failing. So expand to Germany, please. Anyway, Gianluca, do you have anything to add? Maybe your angle on this whole partnership process before we move along to the next topic?
No, I think Gabetta pretty much said it all. Amazing how fast it can go if the right tech integration is possible and you have the right team to talk to.
Fantastic.
And the right CEOs are talking with each other.
Yeah, that actually makes a difference. Absolutely makes a difference.
Yeah. And also, I mean, I have to say, like the guys like Max and his co-founder, I think they're 22, 23, so super young, super smart,
wow. Okay.
move super fast,
Amazing.
and incredible what they have built with that age. I was still partying at that age, and not really running behind girls and clubs. So amazing, really, really amazing what they've done.
Fantastic. Well, hey, another big one for the books, and this is going to be awesome. I hope this is the beginning of many sort of partnerships that we can talk about, that we were involved in, that we can also cover in the podcast. It's going to be very, very nice.
Yeah.
But moving right along, we're going to go on to everybody's favorite topic right now, which is AI. It's been the #1 topic basically for the last 3 years now, essentially. And it only becomes more and more important. We keep hearing all these crazy updates and everything. And in the very first episode of All in Loyalty, we had actually sort of breached this topic to a certain degree. But it was mainly to say that when it comes to the AI applications and loyalty programs, a lot of the bigger companies, have actually gone on the record stating that it is still early stages and there is no clear, sort of angle with which to approach it. But everybody is experimenting. Everybody is playing around with it to a certain degree. And you can always say that the AI is being used in the loyalty aspect, but the same way that a lot of businesses are using it. So when it comes to optimization, when it comes to basically using ChatGPT to make the workflows faster and stuff like that. But what really interests people now is to go into sort of that niche thing that is loyalty, and how can it actually be applied to make people's experiences better, and how the businesses can benefit the most from it. And so there was an article that came out, Artificial Intelligence's Effect on Customer Loyalty in the Context of Electronic Commerce. So we're getting into e-commerce here in particular. And it's basically a summary of an otherwise more of a, I guess, ponderous read. But it basically brings everything down and summarizes it into 3 main aspects where we are currently sort of seeing AI being used. And it gets summarized into 3 Ps: personalization, prediction, and performance. And this is very, very interesting. It was really interesting to read. But in general, yeah, we've been talking about the evolution of loyalty programs. They've existed for a very, very long time. Maybe also talking about both of you guys having been active in the loyalty space I mean, already significantly longer than me, but like by any means, having been involved for a long time, what has fundamentally changed now that AI is involved? Have you noticed any shifts, any big differences ever since, the sort of 2022 original release of ChatGPT or anything like that? Would love to hear maybe some takes or some things that you guys have noticed. Or if the answer is also nothing, I mean, that's also a very important answer. So, Gabriela, maybe let's start with you on this one.
It goes more towards nothing, to be honest,
Mm.
in the sense that I think there are not yet, say, very clear AI use cases in the loyalty space that actually make a difference. At least where you see, like if you use ChatGPT compared to Google, you literally have a huge, let's say, productivity boost. You have literally it helps you out being more productive, and we're talking about 5x, 10x, 20x, depending what it is, right? So there are a lot of things where AI is actually making a big difference. In loyalty, I don't see it yet, really. Maybe chatbots, but also when I use them, they don't really work how they should work.
Mhm.
So like you're very fast in saying, please let me talk with a human. Um, and like human, so that it understands you don't want to talk with you want to talk with the human. I think that's maybe something, but like otherwise, I think in the background there is maybe some stuff going on again for sure with personalization. I mean that's a no-brainer to basically give all that big data to AI and actually make sense out of it and send your users much more targeted offers. On the other side, it's like people always think that with AI you solve a lot of things, but if you just take personalization as an example, yeah, you can use an LLM and you can use a model to actually analyze that data and let's say give you better suggestion how you can personalize. But you need also the whole process on the other side, where actually you have human beings in the marketing teams that actually then have to take those suggestions. They have to have the right channels to push those suggestions. They have to understand those suggestions. They have to have the capacity and resources to manage that. And I think
Yeah.
that's where a big issue is. Like you of course you can have a few amazing things that you can do with AI, but if on the other side the team doesn't really have the resources to then execute them, it doesn't really help you. And honestly, what we also see talking with a few different corporates, the use of various models is super restricted because they don't want any information to go into public hands. Also, if it's not public, but you basically take internal confidential company data and information and you put it into ChatGPT, doesn't work. Like startups are much, let's say, are much faster, and also let's say these restrictions are less, how should I say, it's not that we don't care about it, but we think more about speed
Mhm.
than about compliance, maybe. Which is, I'm not saying this is the right thing to do, but in general, a startup is more about speed. So you start faster, taking some maybe documents, and then, like for example, I'm doing a pitch deck right now. Of course, I'm using AI. I'm not thinking about, oh, can I put that information into ChatGPT and what is our compliance officer saying about it? First of all, we don't have a compliance officer. Um, second of all, we just don't have that thought process. It's really all about speed and all about performing. And corporates have a completely different view on that. They have a compliance officer. Most of the time, that guy or that woman doesn't really understand AI. They maybe have to do first a class or a course to understand AI. Then they have to understand the implications from a compliance and legal perspective. And then there is a lot of, let's say, save your ass culture in corporates, meaning that people are super careful with taking risk, and mostly when it's about new technologies because they don't want to be the person that actually effed up, right? So the first reaction is just to say no, and then maybe using certain models where you can use internally and then you can put some data in and so on. But it's I think that's the biggest issue. So AI will have a huge amount of value also in the loyalty space. We can talk later on about where. Right now, I don't really see that breakthrough where you say, "Wow." here is where AI makes a huge difference, and I actually have a completely different experience, and I'm 10x more happy with my loyalty program because they use AI. I mean,
Yeah,
honestly,
I think
not even basic stuff works. Like, I don't know, you just want to have a map view of all the hotels that a group has, and sorry, we have an issue right now. So it's like, okay, fix first that, and then you move to AI. So I think it's also a bit about that.
I think breakthrough is a very important word there because, like, maybe we'll go into with the article like these 3 Ps that they talk about, and they are sort of slight improvements and interesting use cases, but nothing like you said, nothing that's a breakthrough, nothing that's like revolutionary. But just to maybe quickly dive into what these 3 ones are. I mean, we've got the personalization aspect, which you've already talked about. There's a strong relationship between e-commerce merchants employing AI recommendations and repeat purchases. Um, it's interesting, like in this one in particular, when I was reading that it's affecting product detail pages as well as layouts and descriptions and even images. So that I found a little bit interesting. And then on the prediction side, moving from reactive to proactive loyalty, I'm guessing this is also more of like a crawl rather than like a crazy explosive change that's going to happen. But they use the example of someone that orders protein powder every 30 days, being able to have like a loyalty bonus or something like that, a reminder at day 27. Again, this is something that AI can do. It's something that a lot of, like, I'm guessing algorithms already do, but maybe something that can be sort of improved upon perhaps eventually. And then when it comes to the third one, it has to do with performance. So again, you've kind of covered all 3 of these. They talk about the chatbots here and everything. It is interesting how they have been using them. It is also interesting because I think we've all had that experience where we say, okay, there's an AI chatbot. Sure, I'll give it time of day. I'll chat with it. Maybe it will solve my problem. It asks you for all this info. You spend probably 15 minutes. I need this number, this detail, this whatever, and then it thinks, and then it says, I can't actually answer this. You'll have to talk to a human person. Either that, or you get frustrated, like you said, and say, hey, let's stop this. I'd rather talk to a human. But those are the 3 ones. So we've got personalization, prediction, and performance. And maybe, Gianluca, we can ask for what your general impressions about this article are, if you're sort of on the same boat as Gabriele on this one. And B, when it comes to these 3 Ps in particular, which one do you think might be like the biggest differentiator? Which one actually has the biggest impact currently when it comes to the application of these programs?
Which P do you like?
Pick a P.
Pick a P. So first of all, I would say that I don't think the whole compliance topic is such a big. I mean, it is a big deal, but I don't think it's the big issue. I think it's more so loyalty programs not knowing how to implement AI. Because again, chatbots, yeah, a lot of like that's like use cases that are industry independent. It's just you're a business, you have users. Hey, this is how you can use AI. Put AI in a chatbot. Cool story. It reads your FAQs and it can answer the FAQs when someone asks. I would say this is more of a broader topic about AI. But if you look at AI as just human beings, as a person, like let's say an AI is just a person. If you go to a restaurant and the waiter notices something about you that is particular to you, and they create a mini experience for you because they noticed that. I don't know. I can't come. I don't know what example to make right now. Actually, a very easy example here. Super easy example. You book at a restaurant, and maybe goes through one of those booking platforms where you put in your details, and one of those details is a birthday. If the waiter that's serving you or the staff that welcomed you notices in the booking that it's your birthday today, and they do something special for you, let's say not the singing part that most people don't like, but they do something special for you, you of course feel special in that moment. And you're like, oh wow, how attentive of them to have done that for me. If you look at AI as a person, if those use cases get covered, as in it understands what you do and is able to take, let's say, independent action on how the loyalty system works. And let's say the protein example could be a good example. The AI notices based on all your purchases and your history and your patterns that you order protein every 30 days, and it is able to send an email on its own. Because let's again, that's the idea of the AI as a human. If I were employed to check, I don't know, 30 customers, like that's my user base, and I look at their behaviors and I see, oh wow, this person every 30 days buys protein powder, I would maybe think about how could I do something special for them so that they feel special in that moment and feel a tighter loyal bond to the brand, right? Because they're like, oh wow, look at what they did for me. And as a person, I would say, okay, why don't we, for example, why don't we send them an email and saying, hey, it's end of the month. We've seen that you usually order this protein powder. Is it the case that you're running low? We'd love to give you, I don't know, 10% off. Plus, we'll put in a smaller can of protein of a different taste for free, so that you can try it out. Maybe you want to switch it up. If I would get an email like that, if it would be a store I purchased from every 30 days, I would be like, whoa, amazing. First of all, I get a discount because they noticed that. And second of all, I get a free sample that I can try out. Yeah, why not? Let's check it out, right? If AI would be able to send out the email, would be able to give, like, it has the, let's say, authority to give a discount or maybe more points, extra points for that month, and be able to add a product to that delivery, then I think, yes, then we start thinking about, okay, AI could solve some pretty cool personalization topics. But again, that's all about giving AI agency. That I think that testing, that all of that would take a lot of time. But again, that's just in terms of personalization. It's just AI is much faster than a human being. I was making the example, if I serve 30 customers, AI could run the whole database, or a few AI. Like, I'm not an AI specialist, so I don't even know what it means to one AI, multiple AIs. But essentially, that whole AI engine could run through the whole user base and do these things in seconds and continuously, nonstop, and give these personalized. So I think personalization is highly probable if AI is employed to analyze and take action, and not just analyze and give data.
I think honestly the main issue is that, one part is you need
I
people.
mean, that's just an example, of course. It's just the
No, no.
creativity of loyalty managers saying, how can we employ AI? I think that's
Not
one
only
way.
also technical understanding, being able to execute that, and then again,
You would need
it's
an engineering
bringing
team
it-
to make it happen. Yeah.
and not only you need somebody that actually from a product marketing perspective knows how to use it, and then also an engineering team that can execute it, but you need also to push it through the compliance officer, because you will have a risk assessment. And I mean, the beauty of AI is not just checking the data. I mean, let's be fully honest, like that stuff is here since 10, 20 years. Like, we're not talking about that. That's like the big breakthrough, checking a bunch of data. Like big data is like a topic since literally more than 10 years now. So checking
Yeah, but
data.
the biggest difference between big data just being there and being used to change the user interface or to personalize things is that it's static, in the sense of there's data and it just flows into certain UI, certain experiences, versus an AI that can analyze it. Like, if you're a human being,
And
you
learn.
can make connections. You can make connections that it's not like big data. Just because you have
Yeah.
a 3 trillion data points, you can all of a sudden say, okay, we're
not just-
gonna cover every use case. You
it's not
need
just processing the
an
data.
intelligence
Yeah,
that can connect the dots.
intelligence implies that you have to learn, and that learning part
Yeah.
takes time. That learning part makes mistakes, and that's what
Mhm.
most companies don't want. Because
Yeah.
if suddenly the AI sends you whatever that doesn't really fit to their corporate branding, doesn't really fit to their how they think about they should serve a customer. I mean, if the AI sends you suddenly, hey, we noticed you didn't take that stuff. I'm sorry, you got fat. You now should order more stuff. I don't know if a company would like. I mean, you would social media shitstorm basically ready to go. So, and I mean, you saw it with ChatGPT. How many people posted about? And I saw it myself. Like I was doing a few researches, and then it says there are 10 billion loyalty members. I'm like, man, there are like 8 billion people on this earth, and how do you find 10 billion people? Did you check did you check Mars or some other planet? But like it just doesn't work. So there are some hallucinations that these models still produce, and brands do not want to risk that. Big
Of course.
companies do not want to take that risk, and that's where I think, let's say, that's why there are no big breakthroughs yet. And I mean, last time I think I made the example of Walmart that they basically predicted that a girl like is
Yeah, the
pregnant
pregnancy.
on. And we're talking like this story. I mean, I had it when I was studying at the university, so we're talking about 10 years, more than 10 years ago, like 15 years ago, basically.
Mhm.
So like if 15 years ago Walmart was able to predict that someone was pregnant just by the purchasing history, like guys, like AI should do wonders right now with all of that
Yeah.
data. But the thing is, it's just being put into very narrow field because nobody wants to risk anything in big companies, and that's why most of them actually like super behind on all these topics. That's really the main issue. Like there is very little know-how. If you have someone that actually takes it really seriously and is super inspired and motivated to do something with it, that person needs to go through, get approval from their managers to get the resources for it. They need to go to the compliance officer to get the approval that they actually can do it. There are so many risk assessments to go through, etc., that until that gets to a certain adoption, like there is, I don't know, like ChatGPT 10 out.
Do you think there will be one main instigator in that sense? Do you think like one company is going to come out with one of these like hyper optimized, super functioning loyalty programs, and that all of a sudden that like opens the doors for all the other companies to follow suit?
Most of the times that happens when they start losing. I mean, you see Google, as soon as they saw market share going down, literally people Googling, right, and going to ChatGPT, they had to push hardcore on their
Yeah.
side. And they suddenly starting pushing all kinds of tools, investing hundreds of billions of dollars, same as also a lot of other companies. And that's why I think as soon as these big corporates start basically losing money and market share, they actually start understanding, okay, now we have to take actually more risk because we're not in the comfortable zone of just doing
Yeah,
what
well,
for
that
the last
answers
year.
Arnold's question. Yeah, there will be an instigator.
Yeah,
Because you can't be losing if there's no instigator that's winning. So yeah, most likely there's gonna be someone who's gonna crack the code on how to use AI for loyalty, and then everyone's like, "Oh damn,
no,
what
but
have we
that's
been
exactly
doing all this time? We're
when
so
you have
behind."
when you have like younger companies that are much more agile and fast. That could be a Rove Miles, for example, that can easily employ AI tools and then make decisions much faster, taking also more risk, etc. And then as soon as bigger companies start seeing, oh shit, I'm actually losing to a new player, then they have to move.
Hmm.
So I think
Yeah.
that's most of the times that's the main instigator when they lose money.
Super interesting. It makes me wonder which company or where it's going to come from if it does happen at some point. I'm guessing from some completely unknown one where people manage to accrue just crazy amounts of value and people wonder how they do it, and it ends up being that way. But yeah, super curious. Are there any final points about the impact of AI? I mean, we like we've said, we've gone over it before. There are some light, like pretty traditional business use cases of AI that basically every company uses. But until that sort of breakthrough or crazy thing happens, I mean, are there any final takes on AI's role in loyalty?
There's one that is a bit tangential to that, but It's funny because when I was in, I think, middle school or so, sixth, seventh grade, something like that, I used to play a game called, what was it called? Mega Man Battle Network. It's a Mega Man spin-off series, and
Nice.
the super interesting part about that is that it basically revolves around, or is set in a world where human beings have these, let's say, internet AI companions. They're AI, but now for us AI is abstract in a visual sense, right? It's not like we see an avatar or something on the screen that talks to us, right? It's just in the case of GPT, it's just some colors moving on the screen that resemblance an AI talking. Anyways, in this world, you have a literal companion on that lives in the digital world, and everything is smart devices, your oven, like all the devices, and these net navies, they call them, so internet navigators, net navies. You can through your like your companions, you can send them on errands and all various things. Anything that you can do on the internet and digitally, they essentially do for you and with you. Like they talk to you, they're sentient basically, and they're intelligent. And interestingly, one thing that I was thinking about, like now in all this conversation about AI and loyalty, I have the feeling that if we went in that direction, that would be extremely cool. Because one thing that would help enormously when it comes to loyalty, and if we had such an AI, such a powerful AI companion, because they know you, they could literally look throughout the whole internet over all loads. So this would be a layer above everything, so to say, that knows exactly, hey, you're planning this vacation with your girlfriend, at the end of the year. By the way, I saw that there's this promotion running over there with that loyalty program. If you do that, you'll get enough miles to buy the ticket. Also, by the way, while I was going around the internet, I saw that you can book that hotel with, I don't know, for those dates, and you get another 2x amount of points, which you can then use for that. Like something that, or some sentient being, in this case, an AI companion, that does that work for you, where you're like, hey, we're booking this flight. Can you go check if there's any promotions, anything that will facilitate the booking, and also, how do you say, also save me some money, or maybe even make me some money if you get a ton of points. Now, like that, in my opinion, would be AI well used for loyalty. But I have the feeling that in that case, it's a layer above or below, whatever, however you want to look at the tech stack, above or below everything else. It's not specific to a loyalty program.
Like a loyalty concierge.
Like a loyalty concierge. Yeah. Like more like a life concierge, but yeah, in that regards, like a loyalty concierge. Yeah.
Damn.
Something that
So
can pool that data.
I know someone that is working on something like that.
So a sentient, no, not sentient. I get no. But an AI, loyalty companion that can give you all of the deals
imagine
without-
like literally the game is made in a way that, imagine you have your phone, and when you open up your phone, the first thing you see on your home screen is your AI companion that updates you on whatever it is that you update, and it's literally like a person, but it's on the internet and it does anything you need digitally.
Look in our Notion board. No, but that is true. Like there is a huge. I think there you get the biggest value. Like just help people optimize their kind of the value capture through it.
reminding you, for example, hey, you're about to use XYZ loyalty program. Did you know that you have these perks? Don't forget about them.
For example,
That
there are a
sounds
lot
nice.
of things that you can actually do with that. But again, like I think it needs a new player that actually pushes this stuff. Like there's like
I mean, it depends on how deep we want to go into this topic, but people have been talking in general about fighting the loneliness epidemic through AI companions. Like that's been like one of the main sort of use cases of AI for a while
maybe
now.
maybe I used the wrong word, not companion in that sense. Like
Yeah.
not yeah.
Imagine you did have one and you were able to add something like that into there. So like I have this
Mhm.
companion, make them mention some of these best rewards, like these best loyalty rewards points or
Yeah.
something with me, So that when you're having a conversation with them, they can go like, I really noticed the other day how you like flew with this airline, and honestly, I really think that they're really nice and they treated you well, and they have this really cool program so that if you want to do something like that in the future, you can do this and this and this. I could totally imagine
Mhm.
something like that in the future. I don't
Yeah.
know. Weird tinfoil hat like vision, but yeah, I could see something like that.
Or just check out the game and you'll see what I mean.
Yeah, totally,
Or check out our notes.
totally.
Yeah.
Or that, yeah.
Guys, final topic, and this is a really interesting one that we've briefly touched on, very briefly. It has to do with paying and sort of access, I suppose, when it comes to loyalty. We've seen a bit of a trend, and it was interesting the way this was brought about because it was one of the articles that I had like put forward, and then through talking about that article, Gabriele mentioned his own article, which kind of also had mentioned the same general guideline, and then actually brought up yet another one that has that all talks about kind of the same thing, which is about the general topic of companies who have been putting more of a priority back into the debit card rather than the credit card. So this is really an interesting topic. Maybe I hope that we can have enough time to really get into this one in detail because it's really, really interesting. But it starts off with, it's always this. Wait, I am learning now that I actually have to remove something from the stage before I add something else. There we go. So the first article has to do with Venmo. And this one is super curious because they did recently, I think just a day ago in our time, when like from the day of recording this episode, they announced Venmo Stash, which is a very, very interesting, quite innovative sort of cashback method. Who transact on their favorite brands on the payments app, and they can earn cashback up to 5%, which are then returned to Venmo's MasterCard debit card. The program is designed to incentivize continued use of the service by bringing more funds into the ecosystem. And it cites an interesting article, a study that mentions that only 39% of Gen Z users report frequent credit card use, compared with 51% for older generations. And that another survey from Cash App, apparently from earlier this year, noted that 63% of Gen Z users said that they favored debit cards over other payment methods. So this would be a really, really interesting one. We are seeing this trend, and it's going to be confirmed by the other two articles that we're going to talk about in a little bit. But this is a pretty interesting generational shift away from sort of, I guess you could call it traditional credit card loyalty. And so maybe we can ask a question right off the bat to either of you guys, whoever wants to take it first. But what do you think is driving this generational shift? And how should loyalty strategists respond?
I can take one
It's a
from.
heavy question.
No, I think it's. I think the strategy behind and the main reason behind is fairly simple. They want to lower the barriers to just capture more market, because at the end of the day, if you look at how much time and work, but it just takes a certain amount of say information to actually get a credit card. You also need to have a certain, let's say, financial freedom. You need to have certain assets, etc., to actually be able to use a certain credit card. And of course, debit cards completely eliminate these kind of barriers. The only thing you need to do is basically saying who you are. So you have to go through KYC and AML, and that's it. Then you get your debit card, and of course, as long as you have money on that account, you can spend it. If you don't have it, you can't spend it. So you have a much broader market that you can actually start capturing. And of course, thinking long term, if you get a 25-year-old now to use basically your debit card, and I mean, we can already mention the other two articles.
Mhm.
One is the United and Southwest that just launched their debit cards to earn miles. So if I'm a United and I can capture a 25-year-old one right now that uses my debit card and starts earning miles, and as soon as they get 30, 35, and they actually have the capability to switch to a credit card, right? I basically start upselling them and I start moving them more and more into my ecosystem. So I think it makes completely sense for all kinds of companies that, let's say, go with co-branded cards to actually capture the market. Maybe one small note on why also Rove is again super cool. They don't like you don't need a Rove Miles card. You basically can use any kind of card or payment option to actually earn and spend money with them by shopping, booking flights and hotels, etc. So the barrier is even lower, and I think it's really at the end of the day, all companies want to lower the barriers of entry so that they can capture much more market. So um, it makes completely sense. I wonder why it took so long because if you look at players like Revolut in Europe, they were always debit card based. They had a beginning cashback, then they switched to points. So you already started earning points there on the credit card itself. Sorry, on the debit card itself. So I think it's a completely reasonable move. Makes a huge amount of sense, and I would say that a lot more brands will go into that direction the next couple of years.
I would be also very curious. So do you think, so you really think that this, in this case, this generational shift, what would you call it? Is it like a more of a desire for simplicity by the users? Is it like they're just too lazy to get a credit card, or what do you think?
It has nothing to do with laziness. It just needs more. Like imagine you're a student, right? You don't have a salary yet. You get some money from your parents just to live life basically at university. Um, it, you just the credit card doesn't make sense in that moment because you won't even get it. Like why? How should they set the limit of that card if you put zero salary? Like to
Mhm.
get a credit card, you need to go through. And they need to understand how financially, let's say, strong you are, right? Basically, having a credit score, etc. So, if you're somebody that just you're at university or you just started working, etc., and you have a very low income or no income, how can a credit card company actually issue? Like, it would be just would be responsible to actually issue your credit card, right? So,
Mhm.
um, and issue a credit card with a super small limit, it's just not economically viable for the issuer of that credit card. So it makes more sense to actually issue a debit card, much lower requirements, much lower barriers. And also, if I don't have an income and I have some pocket money or I have a very small income, I can actually start using that and I can start benefiting from a loyalty program where I can earn some miles, I can earn some points, etc. So I think it's again, from my perspective, it's again big corporates that need a lot of time and they need super long until they actually get something launched that maybe was obvious already a few years ago. But if you think about large brands that make like 5 or 10 year plans, they need to tap now into, let's say, target segments of customers that are 20, 25 years old, 30 years old, that then in 10 years will actually be the economic driver. Because somebody
Mhm.
that is right now 55, they're in 10 years 65, meaning that they're going to pension depending on in which region, meaning that they also will have less money, they will have maybe no salary and basically get the pension. But somebody that is 25 right now will be 35 in 10 years, and they will have much more economic power. So they will actually drive revenue in your company. So
Right.
you want to capture them as early as possible and not wait until they're 35 and then tell them, hey, by the way, we have a United credit card. So it makes more sense to give them right now a United debit card, keep them for the
Mhm.
next 10 years, make a good job, give them a lot of benefits, and show them how they can basically get more value out of it. And with 35, then you actually have a very easy. You have a much higher probability to convert them to a credit card customer. So for me, this is really playing long-term chess, if you want. So I'm making the right moves right now, so that in 10 years you don't lose any market share to any other, let's say, players that maybe had the thought before. So super strong move from my perspective from these airlines. And again, maybe a bit late to the game if you look at the Revolut that did that already like 1, 2, 3 years ago. But better late to the game than never to the game.
There were some moments recently where I was actually pretty like convinced that I was finally going to make the move over to Revolut. It's because a lot of their programs, a lot of their things, they just make it very, very enticing somehow. It's crazy. But I think the big rewards thing is one big keyword that I wanted to actually touch on with a little bit more detail, just because from a business perspective, I mean, it feels like it is when you're talking about credit card loyalty programs and debit card loyalty programs, they do, the more you think about it, feel like two very different ball games, right? Just because of when it comes to the rewards, when it comes to a lot of these other topics like the fees, like the partner co-brands, like the redemptions, the exclusivity, et cetera, there are some pretty big, I guess, dichotomies to be made between them, right? I mean, just due to how many people have debit cards versus credit cards, I mean, you have to make the level of rewards, I would assume, quite different from one to the other. So maybe, Gianluca, handing this one over to you, on the business side, what are some of the fundamental points to take into account when you're working on debit card loyalty versus credit card loyalty?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an extreme expert in this topic, but one thing that I can imagine is, of course, with the credit cards, you enter a credit system where interests are earned and accrued and can be used to essentially give something back to the user because they're paying for the interests essentially. And if the interests are also based on how many what kind of limit you have and how much spend you have, of course that's also going to determine then how much you get back. I mean, it's always proportional in percentage points or in percentage, excuse me. So with debit cards, obviously it's just a direct debit. You, as Gabriele mentioned, and I guess as everyone knows, this isn't something special to loyalty. It's literally the whole world. It's if you have a bank account with $1,000 on it, you have a debit card, you buy something for 100 is being debited from your card. That's pretty much it. As far as I know, there's no fees on that transaction as a customer of the bank or as a user of the bank. And so therefore, the rewards that you get on a debit card reward system or loyalty program, it's a business. They somehow have to give you those rewards, which cost them money. So they have to get that money somewhere else. Maybe in the case of Revolut, it's from subscriptions that they have, tiers that they have. They use it from that, or even just banks that have monthly fees. If you have a certain let's say a certain amount that you deposit on the bank or that you always have, then you don't spend fees. If you have less than that amount deposited, you have to spend fees. So they can use all these, let's say, fee systems that they put in place to give something back to the customer. But because it's not inherently connected to the spend that you generate and therefore, or the credit that you accumulate and therefore the interests you accrue, I would assume it's a little bit more difficult and less expansive than a credit card loyalty program, because they have those tighter margins, less ways of, let's say, earning on the volume that you generate through those cards. I hope that made sense.
To add on what Gianluca said, I think to, let's say, make it a bit more structured in the sense that there are three main pillars how credit cards earn money. First one is like how much you actually pay to get that credit card. So we talked about MX Platinum costs you, I don't know, $800-900 per year to actually get it, right? Then they earn transaction fees from merchants. So every time you pay with that card, depending on what credit card you're using or credit card network you're using, the merchant pays a certain fee. And then third, what you actually mentioned is the interest. And that's actually one of the largest revenue drivers, because if you look at when people say they want to pay their credit card bill in installments, basically they trigger fees between 12, 14 in the US can go up to 20, 25% interest per year, meaning that they make a huge amount of money. Actually, there's a fourth one, FX. So as soon as I go outside of my country and I have a USD credit card and I pay in euros, there are FX fees being triggered in the background. So a mix of these topics then actually makes a huge amount of revenue, or just makes a certain revenue for these credit card companies, and they use that to then actually reward you, right? That's why, for example, on American Express, you actually get more points or miles when you use that one than on other credit cards, because the merchant fee is higher. That's also why a lot of merchants say, no, we don't accept American Express, because they don't want to pay more money. Debit cards don't have like interest is not at all a topic. So that revenue driver already falls away. I think merchant fees are also lower. Most of the times, yearly fees are lower that you pay. So it's a lot less money behind debit cards. I think it's more a mass game in that sense.
Mhm.
As you said, like more people have more debit cards, and through that you can actually, as an issuer, as a card issuer, you can make money on it. But on the reward side, 100% lower than a credit card itself. But again, it's not about. I think it's not about size in this case. It's really about getting them early in. These younger generations, and giving them kind of if you think about an app, a freemium version goes a bit in that direction. So you pay less, you get also less, but you start getting the game, right? And you start getting into that game actually, and it makes it much easier for these airlines, hotels, whoever issues these cards, to actually convert them later on to a higher tier. So, which is then the credit card. So I think it's what Jonka said, completely right. Like, again, they make much less money on a debit card than a credit card, and that's also why you get less rewards. But it still gives you a lot of value. Like, it's more value than none of value. Let's call it like that.
Right.
And I would also assume that, because you were saying it's interesting how now they're starting to do this and these kind of loyalty programs on debit cards. I would strongly assume that it's based on the fact that, because they earn so much more off of credit cards, until now they pushed, of course,
Yeah.
point systems on credit cards. So people are like, oh, this is amazing. Of course I'm going to get a credit card because I earn these points, right?
Mhm.
Maybe not taking into account that they're paying interests, or maybe have extra fees depending on whether the merchant takes them all or then puts them into the price, but that's a different topic. But essentially, I think also many years back, banks are probably more keen on giving credit cards, even if people didn't necessarily meet the requirements, or at least the requirements that are put into place today, because they were a little bit more lenient on giving credit. And they knew, okay, we're just going to earn a lot of interest on it, and we're going to put a point system that's going to make everything more attractive. So everyone pushes into credit systems. I would assume that nowadays they just notice, okay, we can't be that lenient. We need to put in some restrictions. We actually do want people to pay us back the credit that they get. And they noticed over time, exactly, that it doesn't happen so often. So they need to put requirements into place, to the extent that maybe the younger generations, as Gabriele mentioned, can't even get credit cards because they're not eligible. And in that case, it then becomes a competitive edge if you, as a bank, or as a bank, a neobank, any kind of financial system that gives out cards, can give their customers points for debit cards. Because now all these younger generations are like, hey, I can get points over there. Or in the case of the article that we're discussing now, that Venmo launched a Stash app, they have packages where you can choose. For example, I get discounts, or I get even free memberships on Uber Eats, on Uber, and various app groups that are categories like travel, food, delivery, and so on. Where, of course, you're like, okay, I need a bank account, I need a card, I won't get a credit card, I can't get a debit. Okay, let me see what's out there. and then you see, oh wow, this bank here, or Venmo in this case, has cards that give me cash back or they give me points that I can use to then get free Uber Eats, to get free Netflix, stuff like that. Of course, I'm going to do that. I mean, I'm killing two birds with one stone.
One card.
And I have,
Yeah,
with
one card.
Exactly. So yeah, I believe it's becoming a competitive edge in that sense, and that's probably also going to push then the reward systems behind these cards.
Yeah. And it feels like a very real trend that's been developing. It feels like this has been brewing for quite a while now, and now that a couple of them have done it, it feels like maybe everyone's starting to follow suit. In fact, if you go to what I just brought up here towards the bottom, I mean, it encapsulates it pretty well. Likely other airlines will follow by issuing debit cards of their own. Whenever you see one or two airlines do something, you see the other airlines fall in line. And in this case, I think it's not even just restricted to airlines. I mean, through the Revolut example, we are sort of seeing this trend grow, I mean, in basically all over the place. So it feels like in the end, maybe we're going to see a more and more competitive landscape where there's going to be kind of a balance between, you want to maintain the sort of, I guess, exclusivity and higher rewards from credit cards, but you also want to make the debit cards rewarding enough that the younger people that are there can't ignore them, right? And that's what's going to be the most interesting part for the future. But we need to sort of put a cap on this because we're slowly running out of time. But Gabriela, do you have any final comments on the debit credit card thing? I'm sure it's going to be very interesting to follow in the years to come.
No, I think it's an amazing evolution. Now, what I was thinking about when Gianluca said that they don't want to give, since they gave credit to a lot of people that, like in 2008 back then, there is a term called that they used, ninjas, no income, no job applications.
Right.
That's so cool.
Basically, they don't want to. A student, in theory, is a ninja because at the end of the day, they don't have any income right now, so they don't have a job. They're students, so makes up.
That's pretty cool.
Ninjas also have something to use.
Oh, that was from a movie. I just can't remember which one, but it's definitely a good one.
Was,
Is it The Big Short?
Bravo.
Something.
I was with Big.
Nice.
Yeah, with Brad Pitt was there. Yeah, a few really cool players.
Mm-hmm.
So they should call them ninja cards.
Yeah, basically.
Ninja.
Might be actually.
The first ones to do that. That's going to be awesome.
Really might actually be a very nice niche to target.
All right. I'm just imagining it in my head now. There's very
same.
funny ways to market it. Guys, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for listening. As always, there's always an incredible amount of news going around with the loyalty programs and loyalty systems. It is very, very cool for us as well as a company to actually be able to be a part of some of these big announcements. That's super duper cool to cover always, and very, very exciting to see those as they come over time. Of course, if you guys have any interesting news that you want to talk about in the loyalty space, be sure to drop them in the comments in either of the platforms that we post on. We post on YouTube, we post on Spotify. Be sure to share this with your loyalty enthusiastic friends, as always. Leave a like on the episodes, leave a repost, be sure to share it around, drop a comment on maybe what your favorite segment was, what we should work on. We always want to improve, of course. But in general, I think this has been a very, very interesting conversation, especially when it comes to sort of, as always, the innovation aspect, but also covering a little bit of M&A from our side. So that was also really, really cool to cover. Any final comments, Gabriele, Gianluca, on you guys' side before we close this one out?
We don't hear it.
Gabriela's going to say, hurry up, I have my next meeting. Okay, we're going to do that.
I was thinking it was super exciting and fun as always. And yeah, I have my next meeting, so I need to drop out. And
fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening, and we will catch you once again here in 2 weeks' time in All In Loyalty. Thank you all, and take care. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you. Take care.
Yes. Vamos.
Yes.
Let's go. Oh. Okay.
Good.
Oh,
Ladies
my
and
hip.
gentlemen. What?
I said my hips. I need to stretch my hips. I heard later.
Okay. Good.
Let's go.
Beginning recording. We're getting started in 3, 2, 1 now. And I just noticed my window's open, but I don't care. Welcome everybody to the all
An amazing start.